It's funny how sometimes you come to a crossroads in your life, and this happened to me, dude. This actually literally, and I'll tell the story, man. Like it's a fucking shitty story, but you get to a crossroads at life, and God or Jesus or whoever you believe in, whatever higher power you think is out there, something came to me in that moment and showed me the two different paths that my life could be on. And it was basically like, here's one path, and you can be in prison. You can be in prison with all the prison people and be a prisoner because of what you did. Or you can be with your kids. And it showed me very clearly the two paths that my life could be on. And I chose the path, and then the color red went away, and I saw what I was doing, and I let go of the dude's throat.
Yeah, I've had something of it wasn't necessarily a religious experience, but more just moments of moral clarity. You know what I mean? Like that before. I used to
No,
be
dude, I
very
like literally saw red. Every like you ever hear like those old like things like like Sublime, whatever song that was, I saw red. What's one more secret lover that I shot dead? Fucking that's a
mhm.
thing, right? I literally, and I didn't know this was true. I didn't know that you could. I didn't know that that's what happened, but I literally everything turned red. And then I had a vision of well, it was two visions like simultaneously of like one being with my kids and one being in prison. And then I chose, and then the red went away.
Right.
I know it's fucking unbelievable. It's fucking unbelievable. I wouldn't believe it myself if I hadn't like experienced it.
Well, like I was saying, I've had moments of moral clarity where you know that what you're about to do is going to go bad, and you just either get out of there or make a decisive choice. And here I am.
Yeah, I don't know, man. You think there's spiritual forces that are affecting us and showing us things and doing stuff in our lives and stuff like that? Or
Yes.
are
Yes.
100%.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm inclined to believe that.
I'm 100% inclined to believe that you were. Um, there is a spiritual warfare going on that we are unable to see with our eyes that are blind to it. But there are forces at bay that fight for your very soul every moment of the day to make sure that you are safe and hopefully making good decisions, and those who which want you the destruction of you, because you have to understand you're a reminder to the enemy of everything he wanted and wanted to have. And so the very existence of us and our free will and our issues to do as which we please, but we are still loved by the Creator, uh, infuriates the darkness on a daily basis. So keep that in mind.
I mean, as far as I'm concerned, that experience proved to me beyond a shadow of a doubt that there's a higher power, that there's something out there that, like maybe not everybody gets a glimpse of it within their lifetime or whatever, and even if you do get a glimpse of it, it's easy to dismiss as something in like, as coincidence or, anything but supernatural, right? But yeah, bro, like that shit to me and how clear it was. Like you hear about people having a vision, like here's a vision, and it's literally what it was. It was like a picture. Here's a picture of your life, of all the things that matter with this set of circumstances, and here's a picture of your life and all the things that you think that matter to you with a different set of circumstances. And it was very, very clear, like, okay, which one do you want to do? You have the choice right now. And like everything stopped, time stopped until I made that decision. And then I made and then like time began again. It was like an angel came down and like pulled me out of my body and pulled me into a like time warp where he could show me the visions that he needed to show me of my life about with the decision that I was about to make or not make and the consequences thereof so that I could make the right decision, you know, because otherwise, like, I don't know. Well, first of all, I don't know why the fuck I saw red in the first place. Like, who the fuck does that? You know, like a psychopath or something? No, I'm not a fucking psychopath. Like, I don't understand how that happened. That was just emotional overload combined with like some sort of spiritual thing, dude. I don't know what the fuck it was, but it literally happened. It literally happened exactly how I just told you guys. And I'm not joking. I'm not exaggerating. I'm not lying. Like, I don't know why I would lie about such a thing, but especially since like how that makes me look, you know? Like it makes me look like, whoa, like what the fuck's wrong with Honda? Like, yeah, I had to deal with some fucking crazy shit that normal people under that circumstance have ended up murdering somebody, you know? And I decided not to because I had a fucking vision. Again, I know how this makes me sound, bro. I do.
The whole seeing red thing, I think, is something that many people that it's a term when you're so angry that you could commit violence. You know, oh man, he had me seeing red or whatever like that. Have you've ever heard that before?
Yes, of course. And I always thought that was just like a saying, like, oh yeah, like I was so mad that I was seeing red because like sometimes when you get mad, your face gets red, or you know what I mean? Like you've seen the color
right.
blood, like it's like a saying. But no, literally, my vision went away. It was like the light coming into my eyes and going to my brain turned red, and everything just was red.
Yeah.
So
I've had it in the past where I've gotten so pissed off that my vision just like goes like black, you know, almost like blacking out kind of, but not. It's almost like my normal conscious went to autopilot and something else took over, if that makes kind of sense. It happened one time when I was in a fight a long time ago where I remember starting the fight, like getting into the fight, but I don't remember bits and pieces afterwards. You know, friends and stuff filled me in on what happened because I kind of just went into a primal mode. I don't know how to explain it.
yeah, I mean, I've definitely been like backed into a corner, you know, and it's like some primal instinct in your brain just snaps and says like fight, you know, and like your body just fights. And it's not till after the fight's over you realize like, oh, I just kicked a dude's ass who was twice my size or whatever.
Yeah.
I've been so like in a situation like that where you're upset or fighting something like that where you get tunnel vision, you don't feel pain. Been there. As far as seeing red, I don't think I've ever done it. I've heard of others who have though.
Have you ever had
either.
have you ever had a Matrix moment where like you're driving your car and something happens and you like hit your brakes and turn the wheel and and then everything just slows down and you see everything happen in slow motion in front of you?
I had that happen when I was in my motorcycle wreck.
Oh,
I can't say that I've had.
I've had it during a fight and I've had it during a like near car accident. So yeah. And actually a near motorcycle accident too.
Yeah, with me, I was going around a corner and hit a patch of pea gravel and ass in out from underneath me, but then I didn't lay it down. It caught and it wobbled, you know, real hard and, you know, basically slingshotted me into the curb. And then right before I hit the curb, I blacked out and took out two of those little green telephone boxes that you see on people's yards and stuff. I took two of them out with my body.
That's called a high side.
My buddy ended up coming. I don't know how long I was unconscious on the ground. I just remember waking up because he was fucking kicking me and not hard, but, you know, trying to wake me up and shaking me. And then I come to and I'm like, what the fuck happened? Yeah, I had a real bad concussion. I had short-term amnesia for a while. I couldn't remember things. It took a while for that to go away.
And I knew this guy. Okay, I knew this girl that I worked with who had a boyfriend who fucking bought a Gixxer and didn't know how to write it, and he was in the military and all this other stuff and thought he was a badass. and then basically whiskey throttled his Gixxer into a brick wall,
Ooh.
going like 40 or 50 miles an hour when he hit the wall, you know? And he was wearing a helmet. But what happens when you hit something that hard and just stop to your brain? It's like your brain's like a layer cake, right? It's got all those folds and things that fit together. And it's like,
Yep.
like if you have a layer cake in the back seat of a car and you suddenly stop, the layers might slide and then slide back. So the cake looks normal, right? But all of the layers between the cakes have slid back and forth. And like that's what happened to his brain. All of the layers of his brain slid back and forth, and they broke all of the connections with the layers around his like other parts of his brain. So like natural neural connections that people have that you grow up with, that you develop over a lifetime, right, are just severed instantly. And like you talk to him for a second, he seems like a normal dude. You talk to him for 5 minutes, you're like, bro, there's something wrong with this guy, you know?
Mm-hmm.
That's horrible.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was like, there was another dude that I knew back in grade school. Dude got a hold of his dad's handgun and was playing with it, didn't know it was loaded, shot himself in the head, right, by accident. They removed like a quarter of his brain, like the left half of the brain, the front half of his left brain or whatever, you know?
Yeah. Left frontal lobe.
Yeah, like gone. And talk to him for like 2 minutes, like 30 seconds. You're like, oh, there's nothing wrong with this dude. You talk to him for 5 minutes. You're like, bro, what the fuck happened? Same deal, bro. Those brain injuries will last forever.
Yeah. It was me. I could have ended up, a vegetable. I wasn't wearing a helmet when I had my wreck. So
Jesus, Corey.
I got lucky just having short-term amnesia problems because I just kept repeating myself and just kept asking the same fucking thing over and over, and I ended up wandering around aimlessly in the hospital.
What kind of bike did you have?
Fuck, what was it?
You amnesia that one too?
Yeah. The sad thing is it would have been mine. It was my buddies that he let me ride.
Bro. I guess that's on him.
It's all right. He didn't really give a shit because it was like his bike he let friends and stuff ride. It wasn't like something he worried about. He had a $10,000 chopper that he rode around himself, and he also had a Suzuki crotch rocket. I don't remember what model it was. So this bike, he just let friends ride with him and stuff. So he didn't give a shit. But I honestly don't remember what it was.
So he let you ride a motorcycle but didn't give you a helmet?
Yeah.
Like, hey, dude who doesn't ride motorcycles, here's a free motorcycle to ride, but don't worry, you don't have to wear a helmet. There's no law.
I rode bikes before that. I just didn't put a helmet on. I didn't even think to ask. We were just cruising around the neighborhood. It's kind of like a private type neighborhood. We were just cruising around. He didn't even know I wrecked. Him and another buddy ended up getting on a couple bikes and just was cruising around, and they came up on me, just sprawled out on the fucking grass of some neighbor's house, and he thought I was dead. So I wasn't moving.
Jesus, dude.
Answers so many questions.
Yeah, it's really putting some pieces together here. It's true. I mean, I've rode, I don't know how many miles on a bike, say 40,000 something miles, probably close to that. And I've had some close calls, right? And I've had a couple of mistakes that I've made where I ended up either just dropping the bike or I don't know, I've wrecked twice, but neither one of them I got injured, because I was going pretty slow both times and saw it coming one time and really got ready for it, and then it happened and I was like, I fucking knew it. So both times I was fine. One of them I was wearing shorts and tennis shoes, and I was still, because I saw it coming and I knew it was going to happen, You know, like I just got ready and fucking fell right and didn't even have a scratch on me the second time. First time it felt like I got punched in the face because I didn't see it coming. You know, it was like the bike's underneath me, and then all of a sudden my head hit the fucking ground, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But thankfully I was only going like maybe 25. But still 25 miles an hour is pretty fucking fast. Like think about 25 on a bicycle. Like riding a bicycle back in the day, like you fucking come bombing down a fucking hill. You're going about
Mhm.
25, 30. If you come bombing down that hill and fucking wreck, oof. And I've done that. I can't tell you how many miles of bicycle riding I did when I was a kid. Like
Oh, God,
so
yeah.
fucking many.
Yeah. I used to ride the whole damn town on my bicycle.
Yeah,
I wish,
where we lived at was like a little neighborhood that was 10 miles away from the city where there was stores and there was a McDonald's and there was like places you could go, like a gas station to get cigarettes. Like when we were like, you know, that age where you wanted like 14 years old when you'd want to go buy cigarettes and shit.
mm-hmm.
And we would ride our bikes 10 miles to town and then 10 miles back almost every day, like almost every fucking day. So we're riding 20 miles a day on our bicycles. Plus, we'd ride our bicycles around all day in town, you know, like hours and
Yeah.
hours just going to this dude's house or that dude's house or underneath the bridge or, you know, wherever.
I wish I had the motorcycle that I built when I was in college. Because I customized that whole damn thing. It was me and a buddy of mine, but I ended up doing more of the work because I was there more often. But, I mean, we had to make our own pipe jig just to bend the pipe to make the frame. We made built the frame from the ground up. I took a couple of different tanks from different bikes and cut them in half and made a bigger tank for it and TIG welded it together. Yeah, it was a pretty nice bike. I wish I still had it.
Jesus. That
I
sounds
also
like a
made
lot of fucking work.
Oh, it was. It was a lot of fucking work, a lot of welding. It was fun though. I enjoyed it. I even made a trike with my teacher in college. We built a trike together.
Do it again. You can buy pieces of metal. You can buy a fucking welder. You can get a motor for cheap off of something wrecked, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Put it
I
all
know.
together.
It just takes money. If I had the
Well,
money,
I
I would
mean,
do
if
it.
you're buying like that kind of shit, like you can go to like a motorcycle junkyard pretty much and pull like a motor out of something for, you know, $100, pull some like, I don't know, suspension pieces, you know, you want like the front forks and shit because you're not going to make that yourself. So
Right.
like
Yeah.
there's certain things that you're just not going to make. So you can pull all the pieces that you're not going to make and then just buy a bunch of fucking steel and weld it all together for the frame and shit and tires and
But this-
rims and make it happen, you know?
This was 20 plus years ago when shit was a lot cheaper. And I had free access to welders and metal because we would go to like the local scrap yard and get all the metal that we wanted for free. Like there was this big ass industrial plant. I think it was called something like Industrial Screw Conveyor, where they just I don't know, they made all kinds of shit for different companies and stuff. And so we would go get their scraps that was leftovers for making their equipment. And, that's how I would teach new students. We'd get the scrap metal and we'd teach them on that, how to weld. All the good old days.
It was always like the kids in ET when I grew up that like everybody just rode bikes. You know what I mean, all around.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, apparently stupid StreamYard is malfunctioning, and this is the last chat that StreamYard is showing me, which was like 14 fucking minutes ago. So if you've been chatting in the chat and I didn't see it, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was wondering what was going on.
Yeah.
So let me do the pop-out chat over here.
What did I do?
You didn't do anything.
The chat section on StreamYard quit working.
There we go. We got the pop-out chat. Now we're going to screen share it so that I can pull up chats from Daniel. It says, man, this city lawsuit shit has really woken me up to that tyrants aren't just in D.C. and Austin. They're running everything, including small ones in bumfuck Texas. Bro,
Yep.
the whole... Okay, so there's been a couple of court cases that I have watched in their entirety recently. When I say recently, I mean within the last 2 years. And that was the Rittenhouse trial. As many of us did. I watched that entire thing from beginning to end. Every second of that trial, from the time that they were picking fucking people for the jury to the time they rendered the verdict. I watched every second of that trial. And then I watched the Johnny Depp trial. And then I watched a part of this trial and that trial because I was getting into Rakita Law, his shit that he does. And the more into it that I get, the more I realize, number one, these judges are fuck all pieces of shit. Not all of them, but a lot of them, because they don't know the law and they've got a gavel and they've got authority. So they exert their authority and they pound their gavel without knowing the law. They silence people who disagree with them. They're tyrants. They're absolutely fucking tyrants. And I think absolutely in small towns there's going to be little partnerships and backdoor deals, and they're going to go have lunch at Denny's or whatever and talk about your case and shake hands without you being there. And then you're going to go to court and the fucking judge is going to be like, motion denied, when it shouldn't be denied. Based upon what? Based upon I'm a small town judge and that's my authority. Gavel. Fuck you. Sucks. But yeah.
The entire system is broken. It's become big and cumbersome, and it's going to crack under its own weight, I think.
Well, what's going to happen, I think, is the more that shit like this happens, where there's an obvious miscarriage of justice, and justice is supposed to be the thing that the courts provide, right? Justice is an ideal. So if it's off a little bit, it's yeah, I mean, it's not ideal justice, but it's some form of justice. But when it's obviously skewed, obviously you're being rules are being applied to one group of people that aren't being applied to another, and that kind of shit, people are going to get tired of it, and they're not going to fucking pay attention to the rules anymore. Because if the rules are against you, then the rules don't matter, right? If no matter what you do, you are guilty, then you might as well do whatever you want because you're going to be guilty anyway. It's if you're in for a penny, you're in for a fucking pound. And I think that's where we're headed for in this country, is a breakdown of trust in the federal government, certainly, but in the court system at large, to the point where if someone steals my car or whatever, I'm going for vigilante justice rather than calling the police.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Now, to be sure, I do like those police videos where police officers responding to a guy with a gun, and then they show the body cam footage of it. It's on police activity. I do enjoy those types of videos, but in the grand scheme of things, the police have become, I don't know if they always were, but I've seen them become more ineffective. And they enforce the small shit that they think they can do, oh, you're not wearing a mask, here's a ticket, or oh, you need to get inside. Or what's that one situation over in England where they arrested an autistic girl for saying, oh, you look like my lesbian grandmother. And
well, there was a lawsuit in D.C., and it was during the Washington, D.C. George Floyd riot protest, whatever you want to call it, right? Where a group of African-American pro-life people, and I don't remember the name of the group, had gone to Washington, D.C., gotten permits to do a protest, went to Washington, D.C., just happened to be while, they'd done this months in advance or whatever and planned everything in advance, and it just happened to be when the George Floyd riots were going on, right? So they had their permit, they're there, everybody's there, they're doing their thing. They write on the sidewalk in chalk that will wash away the first time it gets wet, the first time it rains, about their messages of save black babies, save small Black Lives Matter. I forget what they were writing, stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
And the police came and arrested them. There's an entire city of George Floyd retards burning and pillaging and looting and harming and doing all the things that they were doing right? They almost burnt down a fucking church, like all the other things that they did. And the small group who's peaceful, who's Christian, right, is writing things in chalk on the sidewalk, and they get arrested. Why? Because the police know that when they arrest those people, there will be no retaliation, right? There won't be like a group of people screaming at them and shouting, and there won't be like a further riot when a conservative group gets arrested for doing, like, they don't give a fuck. And that's it right there. Because they know that like the people on the left will. And so when it comes down to it, like you get in a fight with some Antifa person, they're going to come arrest you. Why? Because they know when they arrest you, there's not going to be a riot following that.
There's actually been an update in that case recently. It was either an appeals court or the Supreme Court ruled on it, and they said it was unconstitutional for the cops to do that, and awarded those people a fuck ton of money.
Yeah, they did. They did just finally win a lawsuit, yes, against DC. But again, they had to win that lawsuit in DC court against DC police, using DC people as jury and DC judges. Like, it's the most leftist skewed, like, I don't know. If you're like a Trump supporter and you're facing charges in Washington, D.C., you might as well just plead guilty and bend over. Like,
It's a
because
wrap.
you're going to be guilty. What'd you say, Leo?
No, say it's a wrap.
Yeah, it is a wrap. It is a wrap.
Yeah.
100%, dude. Like, that's why they want to charge Trump in that area. That's why, like, all of the January 6th people got rubber stamp fucking guiltied in court, because the judges don't want to hear an argument. They don't care. They want you to shut the fuck up and take your punishment like the criminal you are, because you're already guilty. There's no proving you innocent or guilty or whatever, right? You're not innocent until proven guilty. You're guilty until proven how guilty in Washington, D.C.
Sometime on Thursday is when Trump's going to surrender himself in Atlanta, Georgia area.
Then they go right. Then they're gonna post his mugshot all over CNN and MSNBC.
Oh yeah, I've seen
and do a
people
little
posting
victory
that they-
dance.
They already said they're going to do his weight and everything like that, too, which I thought was really weird.
Yeah. People are just
It's
waiting
only
for
gonna-
that fucking mugshot to come out.
It's only gonna make his followers dig in.
Yep.
There was
Well,
Well,
that's
and
what
it's
got
going to
me.
make the people who already hate Trump be like, see, I knew there was a reason I hated Trump. He's guilty. And it's going to make the people who already like Trump be like, see, I knew the government was coming after people. They're doing it to Trump, right? And it turns out like one side's really right and one side is not right at all. I mean, I don't know what Trump's guilty of. Like, what did he do?
They want more Rittenhouse style gun battles coming,
Well, what they're trying to
especially in
charge
the
him
next
with,
presidential election.
what they're trying to charge him with in Georgia specifically is talking about overturning 2020 and a few other things.
Yeah.
The thing is, though,
But he
there
didn't.
was actually a woman in Chicago that was arrested. She's a history teacher, and she was trying to talk about killing Trump and his son Barron, and she finally got busted by the
yeah.
Secret Service this week.
Yeah.
Which again
Yeah.
shows a two-tier justice system there, because they arrest her, but yet who did they kill? That Craig Robertson guy and a couple other people too in the last week or two.
Yeah, certainly don't want to say anything about Biden. 'Cause- I mean, it's a joke. It's a joke to say that shit, but honestly, it's not fucking funny, because they will come to your house. They will kill your fucking dog. They, like, if your kid moves too fast, guess what? Don't have a teenager anymore. That sucks. And if you move at all, in fact, even if you do everything they say, they might fucking pump you full of lead and then just not release the fucking body cams. Anyway, Daniel dropped in 10. Thanks, man. Says our small ass bumfuck town has 6 businesses, no jobs to speak of. They voted tonight to require new business wanting to meet with the city to pay $2,000 just to talk. So out of touch with reality. Sorry. They're so out of touch with reality. I mean, if there's only 6 businesses in town, like, you should probably like do what you can to get more businesses in your town, I would think.
How about a bulldozer factory? Just saying. Just throwing that out there.
I mean, there's a lot of shady shit like that going on, like here in the Canton area where I live at. The city council of Canton, Ohio, refuses to allow new businesses to come in there. Why? Who the fuck knows? Maybe because they have some kind of weird deal going on there. But yeah, you could have that whole place up and running. We could have a ton of manufacturing coming out of the state just in that area alone, and they won't allow anything to come in there. It's ridiculous.
Well, I mean, there's also I forget. I think it was Montana is having a lawsuit against the federal government when it comes to FFL licensure, because traditionally, what would happen is they like if you have an FFL, occasionally, and I don't know what frequency they would do this, they would send the FFL guy from the ATF to your FFL to do an audit. And they would go through your paperwork and make sure that things are in order. And if you have a minor issue or whatever, they tell you like, hey, here's your minor issue that you need to resolve, or like moving forward, don't do this anymore, whatever it is, right? And then if you were like really fucking out of whack with something, or your papers don't add up or whatever it is, then they would recommend that you have your FFL license pulled. And that would happen about a couple percentage of the time, right? So like if they sent out 100 agents to 100 FFLs, maybe 2 or 3 of them would come back as like recommend we pull their license. And then they would do it. So 2 or 3 percentage points every time lose their license because they're not doing something right, or they did something illegal or unknowingly illegal or whatever it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
But now that number has gone up to something like 50%. So when they send the ATF guy to your FFL, they're looking through your paperwork, they're looking through your stuff. If they find like one lowercase j not dotted or whatever, you know, they're going back to their boss and recommending that they pull your FFL. So there's a bunch of FFLs that have been losing their FFL status because of minor infractions, like clerical paperwork errors, like things like that that traditionally weren't a big deal. And now they're suing over it because of loss of business and things like that. And I think that that's something that we should pay attention to, because that's a backdoor way to get rid of the Second Amendment, right? Like you can't do it directly, you can't do it full frontally. So they're doing it backdoor. They're coming after your right to self-defense. So anytime that there's like a clear thing of self-defense, you're still going to have to go to court. You're still going to have to argue. Like look at Rittenhouse. Like that's a perfect prime example of, dude, this dude did nothing wrong as far as self-defense. Like maybe you could make an argument about the gun or whatever, that he was okay, fine, charge him with that, but certainly not with murder, because that's not what he fucking did, right?
Right.
But no, that's what they charged him with, and that's what they tried to go after him for, and that's why he was found not guilty, is because he didn't commit that crime. And like thankfully in that court with that fucking jury, they upheld the law that time, thankfully, right?
Yeah.
But that's no guarantee that they're going to do it with you. And so there's that cloud over your head of like, well, yeah, I have guns, and yeah, I like my guns, and yeah, I have my gun in case something happens that I can like do something about it. But if it's someone else's life that's on the line, like, are you going to shoot somebody to save someone's life at this point with the way things are going? Maybe, but maybe not, because like if you do, your life might be over too. You know what I mean? So they're coming after it from that aspect of right to self-defense, and they're coming after it from the aspect of, well, now you're not going to be able to buy a new gun from an FFL. You're not going to be able to do a transfer, because there's not going to be FFLs to do transfers at, because we're getting rid of them all. And like the few that are left are going to be able to charge so much fucking money for it. Like it's going to be cost prohibitive for people to exercise their Second Amendment. And they're trying to argue that this is not an infringement. I don't know, man. What do you guys think?
Yeah,
There's a term for this. They call it administrative violence. Is when you smack people with paperwork rather than coming at them with any kind of a full on, I guess, like you said, for lack of a better term, a full on frontal assault. You kind of go around side door or whatever like that and hit them like that. That's what one YouTube creator calls it.
Someone else wanted to say something?
Yeah, it's a bunch of BS. There's actually people who are actually still doing self-defense things. There's one I dropped in your Discord earlier tonight. It was a dude out of Michigan. He had a 6-pack in one hand, and the guy came in with a box cutter to try to kill the store clerk. And he shot the guy 6 or 7 times.
Yeah. Don't
Yeah,
hold
but-
my beer.
But again, like you have everything on video. You like have the pre-crime. You have like the guy's motive. Like you can see what he's trying to do. He tries to grab your wallet. He fucking pulls out a knife. You shoot him in the chest. It's all on fucking camera. And you're still gonna get arrested, and you're still gonna get your gun confiscated, and you're still gonna like have your name in the paper and maybe lose your job and fucking not be able to pay rent that month because you're living paycheck to paycheck and you couldn't make it to work for a week because you've been in jail the whole fucking time, and now you got to pay for a lawyer. And like, what the fuck is wrong with our goddamn country, bro? Like, that's where we're at right now. Is they're coming after our rights piecemeal, onesies and twosies. Like, oh, you don't have the right to travel. You have the privilege to drive on our roads. So you have to get a license. You have to have insurance on your car. Like all these different things. Like before, you just hop on a horse and fucking go west. You know, like we used to have freedom in this country, and we've given it up so slowly, so incrementally that it almost seems like it didn't happen. It almost seems like it's always been like this, but it hasn't. MSB 9021 says, in my a-hole town, planning board just voted to allow construction of 28 new HUD Habitat for Humanity houses among board members and our plumbing bus. What? And are a plumbing among board members are a plumbing bus owner, an HVAC business owner, an HVAC business, and a realty business owner. Of course.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what it is everywhere. Come November, we're going to have legal weed on our ballot to vote it through or not. And a bunch of people that are against it either have direct ties to Big Pharma and our General Assembly, or they have direct ties to beer companies and stuff like that to be distributors for them.
Yeah.
I don't think
You
if
know,
you legalize pot, anyone's going to drink any less beer.
No.
Well, it's like conflict of interest that I'm talking about there, especially the Big Pharma thing.
I'm just saying, like, for the people who were like, oh, I'm on the beer corporation, like, your beer's safe, bro. Don't worry. In fact, if you write the law correctly, now you can start brewing like hemp beer and stuff and open a whole new market. So do it right.
Yeah, it's not being done right. That's the problem. It's all out-of-state billionaires that are behind the whole damn thing.
Daniel dropped in 5 and says, if one was going to run for mayor of bumfuck Texas, should one run as American First Republican? I think I could get an endorsement, or a little L libertarian. I think probably bumfuck Texas would be America First Republican, right?
I would
be
agree
better.
so too. Especially being, the area of Texas where I think he's at. I think that would be the best route.
You could go as a fiscally conservative Republican / libertarian if you wanted to. Just say lower taxes, small government, that kind of thing.
How else are they coming for the Second Amendment right now? Like, the other thing that I was just thinking of was ammunition, right? And
Yep.
it's not as obvious, but certainly we felt the effects of it during COVID when there was an ammo shortage, when there shouldn't have been, because they're contracted with all of these ammo manufacturers to produce a fuck ton of ammo over the next like decade or 20 years or whatever it was. And they have just so much fucking ammo they don't even know what to do with it. And yet everyone else is like, I can't buy ammo because it's like fucking $1 a round now,
Yep.
I heard that they were actually proposing a federal tax on ammunition that was like 1,000% or something like that.
It's that, and it's like ARs and stuff like that. So they're trying to attack with that as well.
Something like that.
Yeah, so there's another method. It's like, well, we can't outright ban these items, right? Because technically speaking, there's a Second Amendment that I guess we have to respect at least a little bit, right? We have to give the facade of a respect for it. So what we'll do is put 1,000 or 5,000% tax. So if you have like a $500 gun, you now have to pay fucking like $2,500 in tax on top of it. So you're paying $3,000 for your $500 gun.
That's bullshit. But that's
Well, the real problem with all that stuff is nobody ever sits back and says, just because you can do this, can you actually legally do this? And that's where the big issue comes in at, because they can't. They have no legal authority to do that shit under the Second Amendment. And every attack they do, it should automatically be an arrestable offense for deprivation of rights under color of law.
Yeah. But proposing legislation that gets shot down, while we find it abhorrent, if they're a sitting representative and they're proposing legislation, then they can't really be held liable. And it's pretty dumb. I personally think it's an infringement as well. But you know, and they're just at this point they're just throwing everything against the wall and seeing what sticks.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
They've been doing that for years.
Yeah.
Well, they're doing that whilst at the same time packing courts in different districts with liberal judges who are going to, without some conspiracy, without meeting in a back room, just based upon the ideology of the people that they're putting in these positions. They know how they're going to judge, right? And they do this thing called judge shopping, right? So they're like, we want to try this case in this district. We're going to randomly pick a judge from the district to be the judge proceeding over the thing. All right, randomly pick one. Oh, we don't like that judge. Randomly pick again. Oh, we don't like that judge. Randomly pick again. Okay, we like this judge. Our random pick has this judge as the judge. So he's going to be the... That's how they fucking do it. I mean, it's bullshit, dude. And it's like blatant, and it's in front of all of our faces, and it's happening under our noses, and it's taking away our rights and our freedoms. And it's not serving justice. It's going to end in people losing their faith in the justice system, which will necessarily end in destabilization of our country.
Well, the judge
That's
shopping thing is exactly what Bloomberg and them do all the time. And the worst part of it is they're not only doing that, they're actively funding the campaigns of judges now. They're funding the campaigns of random people running for office now that are Mama's Main Action members. Hell, there's a sheriff in the state of Ohio right now who is an admitted Mama's Main Action member, should have been disqualified on the spot from ever holding that position because of that alone. But yet she'll come down to Columbus every time there's either a pro-gun bill or an anti-gun bill here and be like, well, I'm against this if it's pro-2A, and I'm totally for it if it's anti-2A.
And then another way that they're attacking is just through the ATF's Chevron deference, where they can make rules that have the force of law behind it. That just needs to go. I think it's any day now. It doesn't even have to be a gun case. It could be something with the Department of Agriculture or something, you know, some unrelated where Chevron deference as an institution gets shot down. In which case, all of the agencies, like if Chevron deference is ruled unconstitutional by the Supreme Court, then all of the agencies lose their ability to do it. So, I mean, and there's like, you know, like there's so many different departments that are getting sued and that are exercising Chevron deference and getting sued over it, that one of them is going to get through.
Daniel dropped in 5 more. Thanks, man. Says they also raised city taxes tonight at the city council meeting. Quote, because we do that every year, unquote. The mayor literally said that on record. That's fucked up. Oh, that's like your fucking landlord raising rent just because they can.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's a predatory practice almost. Like, I understand if your costs went up and like inflation happened or whatever, and so like you have to raise the price like a couple of percentage points to make up for. Okay, fine, that makes sense, right? If it's, well, you lived here for a year, and so now when you re-sign your lease, it's gone up 10% because we know it's going to be a pain in the ass for you to move, so you're likely to just sign the lease even though it's more money, rather than like finding something that was a little bit cheaper and moving again because of how much. That's what they fucking do, dude. They get you.
Yeah. Now, if you wanted to run for office in a city like that, I would run on a taxation platform, on a low taxes platform.
Yeah, especially if they raise it every year.
Yeah.
People would you would think they would want to vote you in so you can lower taxes back down.
Also, see if they're raising their own pay at the same time.
Yeah, no shit.
Yeah.
Yep. What do you do, man? The rich get richer.
You can
Yep.
ingratiate yourself to your would-be supporters by saying, we're not going to raise taxes every year if I get in. And another thing, I will not take a salary or something like that. You could say that would really kind of ring people.
Well, I think the thing that needs to get fixed in government, taxes are secondary to spending. If they can get the spending under control, they can become fiscally responsible. They can start reducing the national debt and live within the means of the taxes that they do bring in, right? Then at least like the dollar would stabilize. Like there'd be a bunch of good things that would happen if they do that. But there would also be a bunch of bad things that would happen because there's a bunch of government programs and people sucking off the government teat that would instantly lose their paycheck, lose their cash cow, and go insane and go crazy because they're like, some of them are businesses, some of them are government contractors that have these like fat cow contracts of like, oh yeah, I'll build your railroad area here, I'll fix it up for a fucking fuck ton of money, thanks, cool, good deal. But then there's a lot of people who are like, you're taking my food stamps, you're taking my Section 8 housing, you're taking my fucking whatever, and they don't know how to survive without it. Like there's no survival skills, there's no work skills, there's no work ethic, there's no punctuality, there's no nothing, dude. All they know how to do is show up to the fucking Social Security office and fill out paperwork till they say, fine, fuck off, here's some money, leave us alone.
Well, I think, like you were saying, a lot of good. If we were to balance the budget, a lot of good things for it to happen would be to happen. One of them would be an explosion in the private industry, and a lot of people who can work, who just simply don't, would kind of, once their stomach starts rumbling, they'd go get a job. Some of them, but it's just one of those things where it's like free money and welfare programs, stuff like that. It's like a drug. It makes you feel good, stuff like that. But eventually, you're going to have to come off of it, and unfortunately, that involves some.
Dude, we're over $1 trillion of interest on the debt annually currently. And moreover, we just lost our AAA rating with the World Bank, which means whenever so like you have like X amount of debt, and what they do is like some of that debt rolls over and then it has to be like either paid off at that point or redebted. So you have to like find someone else to buy up the debt. And when you lose that AAA rating, when you refinance that debt, you're doing it at a higher interest rate necessarily. So right now it hasn't affected us too much. And in 10 years, when most of that debt's been recycled and refinanced, and all of that debt that has been refinanced at a higher interest rate, even if we don't gather any more debt, which we absolutely will, that $1 trillion in debt, in interest on the debt annually will double, triple, quadruple because of that. So then it becomes runaway debt. Then it becomes a parabolic fucking curve on a graph where like we're right in the meat of the curve right now, like the curve goes like this, like it's like flat, 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 and then it starts curving up and then it's flat up. We're in that spot right here in that fucking the elbow, when everything happens, when everything like you don't want to be in the part where it's straight up. You want to be in the part where it's flat, like going horizontal.
Mm-hmm.
And like, yeah, we're not in any of those places. Oh shit, we got Supas coming in. Super chats. Dana dropped in 5 and said, did you know that Central Park in New York is valued at almost the exact amount as the national debt? I got a solution. China. And RCDC dropped in 5 and just didn't say anything, but I appreciate it. Thank you, RCDC.
So how we were talking a while ago about that BRICS countries and them trying to do that currency? I guess they're having their summit here in the last couple of days, and India has now basically pulled out and said, "Fuck you, China. We think you're going to hoodwink our asses in this. We ain't putting up with no new currencies. We're going back to the petrodollar."
Really?
India's pulled.
That's a shock.
Yeah. I hadn't heard that. Yeah, that summit's in South Africa right now, the BRICS summit.
Yeah. It was
Well, I
like either
mean-
yesterday or Sunday. I forget which day.
South Africa is a great place to be unless you're white.
Hey, right? A white farmer.
Yeah.
You're kind of fucked.
Have you seen the songs about kill all the white farmers or kill all the Bora?
Yeah.
The Boer. Yeah.
Julius Malema. That guy's such a piece of shit.
It's Bora. Or am I wrong? I don't know. What is it?
It's the
Borat.
Boer.
Or
Bora. Fuck you.
Same difference.
You know what I'm talking
Oh,
about.
but-
Jesus Christ.
by the way, as of about 2 weeks ago, I'm officially in the Model 10 club.
Yeah, I saw that.
You
Yeah.
talk into your phone a little bit more or something because it's like we can hear you, but it sounds like you're like you have it in your pocket or something.
Usually,
Yeah,
you
like you're
complain
far
about
away.
me. I have it on mic. Hang on a second.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're not talking into the mic, then it sounds like this when you're talking. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it sounds like you said you officially a mom. That's what I heard.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought you said you're officially a model.
How does this? Is that better?
Yeah, it's better.
Okay, yeah, I put it on automatic. For some reason, the slider had slidden halfway down, and I just put it on automatic. No, I'm a member of the Model 10, Smith & Wesson Model 10.
Where'd you get it from?
Oh,
I bought it in the classifieds.
The class of the newspaper?
No, not those classifieds. Online classifieds. Am I
Oh,
allowed
okay.
to say that? TGT?
You can. Okay, here's the deal. Just so everyone is clear about the YouTube rules, I can say I bought a gun. I can say the gun is a Smith & Wesson Model 10. I can say I bought my Smith & Wesson Model 10 for $599. I can say I bought my Smith & Wesson Model 10 for $599 from Palmetto State Armory. What you can't do is post a link.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, I got it off of TGT. It's about 400 beans.
God damn it. See, you said beans still.
I chose to say beans.
Anyway. Daniel says, seriously, if it was a national ballot, wouldn't you vote to sell Hellhole Park to clear our grandkids' debts? Yes. Yes, I would. 100%.
Who would you sell
Eyes
it to?
have
though?
it full open to buy, though.
The highest fucking bidder.
Well, you
I
just
would want
you,
to
you
sell
break
it
it into a million pieces, and then you sell a million pieces at really expensive, and people will buy them.
Yep.
I'd want to sell to domestic investors, nothing foreign.
Well, what was the debt in the year 2000? Does anyone know?
Like $4 trillion.
Wrong. It was 2.4 trillion.
I knew there was a 4 in there somewhere.
And I remember back then being in high school, taking an econ class, and being like, okay, we owe $2.4 trillion, right, teacher? And she's like, yes. And I was like, and we can print money because we have the ability to just print money, right, teacher? And she's like, yes. And I'm like, then why don't we just print 2.4 trillion and pay off the debt and then live within the fiscal means? And everyone laughed at me.
The
See,
valid question.
2.4 trillion would not have caused as big of an inflation spike as, say, 30 trillion nowadays.
It would have been an
No.
inflation spike for sure. Yeah. Like
Yeah,
there
but
would have been, like your gallon
been-
of gas would have gone to like from 99 cents to like $1.10. You've been like, well, what the fuck, dude?
Yeah.
But you know what we wouldn't have had now? National debt. We wouldn't be
Yeah.
mortgaging our children's futures so that we can have AC on right now or whatever.
If they paid off the debt, that would just give them more wiggle room to create more debt that made the old debt look like chump change.
Mm-hmm.
You know they would do that.
Pretty much.
Yeah, fuck Central Park. Daniel says the park right now is valued at $39 trillion.
Jesus Christ.
Christ, dude. That's fucking expensive.
That's like life-changing money. Like, that's generational wealth forever.
Well, I mean, unless, you know, the dollar goes the way of Venezuela dollars.
Well, true, too. But
It's
if
like
it didn't...
39 trillion, that's a nice pool.
I can spend that within a weekend.
Gotta go fill up a tank.
Yeah, how much did that motorcycle cost? 39 trillion. That's a great deal. I thought it'd be at
Got it.
least 45.
Yeah.
Anyway. Yeah, dude, they could have done that back then. And
Yeah.
they could have completely wiped out. I mean, that was when we had the .com boom. People don't remember this. Where for the first time, and it was when Slick Willie, when Bill Clinton was in office, they had, for the first time in my lifetime, or for the only time in my lifetime, I think, they had a national surplus because so many people made so much money and then had to pay taxes on it that the government was just like, fuck, man, we got all this money. Like, what should we do with it? And they were like, should we pay down the debt? Should we do this? Should we do that? Should we give it back to people? And of course, they put out a vote to the people, and everyone voted, or according to them, everyone voted that the government should spend it on stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
I remember those days, and I remember they passed a balanced budget bill. It wasn't necessarily they were like 1 or 2 votes shy from passing a balanced budget constitutional amendment, which is what they were really shooting for, and that would have been fantastic. But yeah, Bill Clinton, it was a combination of a slightly higher tax rate and increased like .com revenue, moving around and stuff with the .com bubble, and they cranked the surplus for the first time. Yeah, since what was that? 1996, something like that. And so yeah, they could have just lived within their means. I wish they would have passed the balanced budget amendment. That would have been fantastic.
Ironically, it goes back to Ross Perot because he was the one that got into that race back in, 92, where he basically forced both political parties to actually make a damn budget for the first time ever and be like, live within your fucking means, assholes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was a combination of like shrinking the federal budget and taxing at a slightly higher rate that produced that surplus, and that's basically like austerity light, where you shrink the budget, increase the taxes, and pay everything off. And it's supposed to be a temporary measure, but,
Jeez, I can't believe we're at almost $33 trillion in debt. That's retarded.
So per citizen, that's every man, woman, child, baby, and perhaps some now legal immigrants. You're looking at 97,590 per taxpayer. That means anyone who's ever had a job and paid taxes. $253,686 per person. I was thinking about it. Okay, so let's do some math here. Do some math. Pull up a calculator. We'll pull up a calculator. Hold on. I am currently, I'm about to be 42 years old. I moved out when I was 16. So 26, 36. We're looking at 26 years of living on my own. So they're 26 years times 12 months a year. I've paid rent 312 times, right? I currently pay about $1,100 or $1,200. There's been times where it was like $600 or $700, $800. I'd say a good average for that entire 26 years would be about $800 or $900. So we'll say $850. right? So times 850. Uh, 850 times 12 times 26. There we go. So I paid $265,200 roughly in rent in my lifetime, which is about how much the taxpayer debt is. So if they just take all the rent money that I paid and, you know, everyone's paid and add, like, applied it to the debt, we'd be fine. Isn't that fucked up? You paid $250,000 in rent and you don't own shit. Not everybody talk at once now.
Yes, it's very fucked up.
No, it's not. No. I guess it's not for everybody.
Daniel says you bought someone a house. Yeah, I did. Absolutely. Daniel also says they would have a $7 trillion surplus if they sold it.
But that would be too easy for them to sell it.
Where's the unfunded liability part of this? Because there's like the regular debt, right? National debt. There's how much it is per citizen, the spending, the blah, 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 blah. But then there's also like, well, here's the things in the next 20 years that is going to cost us the most. Here's like, I don't know. There's a fucking number on here somewhere, and I don't know where it is. Oh, here we go. Social Security liability. So Social Security liability is sitting at 22.8 trillion. Medicare liability is sitting at 35.6 trillion, and U.S. unfunded liabilities are sitting at 193.2 trillion, making the total liabilities per citizen. This isn't per taxpayer, because remember, per taxpayer, the national debt at 32 trillion was $97,590 per person. So this, just the unfunded liabilities per person, is $575,670 per person. Cool. Why is
Yeah,
everybody here tonight?
I'm gonna have to go with a big fuck you on that $500,000.
Yeah.
There's no way I haven't borrowed that much money. I don't know that shit.
Exactly.
What's the old saying? Enjoy the decline.
It was spent on your behalf to drop bombs on shit countries. And the thing is, while we didn't specifically okay them to spend that money, we tacitly okayed it by not being up in arms out on the streets protesting, screaming fucking bloody murder, like running against these people, getting them out of office, getting rid of the deep state, and doing it in our entire life, which is what we should have been doing since I was a little kid. Since I was like 5 years old, we should have been dedicating every fucking extra second that we weren't spending on like cleaning the house or feeding ourselves to dismantling and taking apart and replacing piece by piece this government that's fucked us over.
Yeah. There's like you were talking about dropping bombs on shithole countries. There's a rap song which one of the lyrics goes, "The grown-up Goliath nation holding open auditions for the part of David." In other words, you know what I mean? We're sowing the seeds for our own demise, as it were, by doing all that shit. So. And if you look at all of the nations that are signed, there's a whole bunch of nations that are signed up with BRICS as well. Like, I mean, I know India said, and they were a huge one. But like there's other nations like Argentina and Saudi Arabia and a few other places like that. You know, they may not be noteworthy unto themselves, but there's a lot of them signing up to decouple from the dollar. So I mean, it's like,
Well, I mean, everybody's. I think anybody with a fucking brain on their shoulders, and I mean, like them or not, I think most of these foreign countries, at least leaders or people who are advising the leaders, probably have smart people doing things. You know what I mean? So they see it coming too. And that is the writing on the wall that the dollar has, I don't know, an expiration date. It's a perishable item that is soon to go bad, right? And you don't want to be the last person holding that potato when the bell rings or whatever it is. So the smart ones are getting out of the dollar now. The smart ones are figuring out like back doors to get out of the dollar without pissing off America, right? Or making it very obvious what they're doing. But making these backdoor petrodollars, 100% that's what they're doing. 100% that's exactly what they're doing. And as soon as those deals go through and they stop using the dollar, like prepare to live a level of poverty that we have not experienced before in this country.
It's going to make the first Great Depression look like chump change.
I was
a walk in
watching
the
a
park.
video yesterday that was showing people making mealworm bug burgers, and I'm just like, I'm eating your fucking bugs, bro.
That's disgusting.
Yeah.
You know, all this talk,
Slap the
Honda,
cheese on that bitch.
is making me think of that song that I was talking to you about with Duke earlier, that Oliver Anthony song.
Yeah, the one that everyone in the world's heard. Yeah.
That's all I keep hearing playing in my head, talking about all this fucking shit.
Well, the other part of it is, and this is the most nefarious part, in my opinion, is the poisoning of our food and water and air. And they're doing it again blatantly. They're doing it again while we should be standing up and fighting back against this and up in arms and in the streets and fighting against it with every fiber of our being and every extra second that we have, putting these corporations on blast, telling, whoever it is that is the authority that they are not doing their job and replacing them and fucking getting someone in there who is going to do their job. We've got scientists that get paid to do science, and it's not science because they get paid to have a result. So we've got tobacco science when it comes to GMO foods and atrazine and stuff and shots and fucking, like all the different stuff that they have in the water. And there's literally like, I think 25 or 50 or something like that, some number of forever chemicals that are endocrine disruptors that go into your body and fuck with your endocrine system and like make your testicles turn into fucking ovaries and all kinds of weird shit, right? And they know about it, and they're letting it happen, and they're not testing for it. And they say that they're not testing for it because, well, there's been no proof but they've got the tobacco scientists, and then they don't do anything about it because, well, it's going to cost so much money, but then everyone's dying of fucking cancer and turning into girls and shit. Like, where do we draw the line? And the answer is, I guess we don't. Because if we were going to draw a line, we would have drawn it fucking like 10 miles ago,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
And they also
So-
want to kill off having cattle. So where are you going to get your meat from then?
Did you know that most cows that you eat are cloned?
That doesn't surprise me.
Most?
Yeah, what they do is they clone an embryo and then inseminate the embryo into a cow so that they can guarantee that like the sex of the bull or the cow that they're trying to make or whatever, and like the genetics of it are like guaranteed, like, oh, it's going to be this big when it's 6 months and this big when it's a year and a half or whatever, Yeah. Because it's less dangerous for the cows to get inseminated than it is for them to receive a bull, like get injured and shit like that.
Mm-hmm.
When it's more efficient than harvesting bull semen and pumping it into cows, they can just make embryos and fucking like needle them in,
Since we're talking about this,
Yep.
check out that Gateway Pundit article I just dropped in the back chat.
I was actually talking to my neighbor the other day, the one that gave me that 8 pounds of hamburger meat for free, about how they price it out, and I'm gonna start buying my meat here soon from him, because he said they can either finish the cow off grain feeding them or grass feeding them. They can raise them however you want, and then you just buy a quarter, half, whole, whatever, and depending on what you buy, you can pick your what portion of the cow you want. So like, hell
Until they
yeah.
make it illegal to
Yeah.
do that.
Well, what they're gonna
No
do?
cows whatsoever.
What they're gonna
Too
do
much carbon footprint. Sorry.
is they're going to say, okay, like whatever happened to the dollar, it's bad. It's real bad. We got to get rid of the dollar because the dollar's not good anymore. So now we've got these federal coins that go onto a digital account that's attached to your retina. So when you go into the store, we scan your retina and then we take credits out of your account based upon how much credit. That's how they're going to do it, right? And then when you're like, oh, I'm at the store. What would I like to eat tonight? Ooh, a steak sounds good. So you buy a steak. It's like, okay, your steak costs X amount of money. Cool. You swipe your eyeball or whatever, and you go home and you eat your steak. And then the next night comes, you're like, I'm going to go to the store and get another steak. And you go to the store and you get the steak and you go to the checkout line and you swipe your eyeball and they say, I'm sorry, sir, you've already had your monthly allocation of carbon credits when it has to go to meat. So why don't you have a little bit of chicken or salmon? And then like after you do that, then it's down to mealworms and crickets and grasshoppers and shit,
Yeah.
because those are very low carbon. So you can have, if you're really hungry and you really want that protein, you can have one steak or you can have 10 pounds of crickets. It's the same carbon footprint. And people are going to be like, they're going to scream at you with their mask on, just like they do now, about like you're buying a steak and you're in the checkout line and someone's like, murderer, you're a murderer. And then people like shout like irrational things at you and you have to leave there without getting your ass kicked. And if you fight back, you're going to get arrested, because that's the future we're going into, dude. Like that's where we're going.
They're already doing this shit in Aldi over in the UK and stuff. There was some dude a couple weeks ago who was trying to buy a thing of strawberries in there and was like, I don't care if you're not taking cash or not. Here's exact change for this. I'm taking these out the door. And he had to walk through like barricades and like jump barricades basically to get out of there.
Yeah, I did see that. And that's fucked up, dude.
Wait, so what happened?
The store doesn't take cash anymore. The dude's like, fuck you, I don't have a card. Here's cash for the strawberries that I'm buying. It's like $2.79. Okay. Here's $3, or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
Deal with it. Peace out. And everyone's like, he's stealing.
Okay. I need to look up that story.
Did you see that footage of the girl going into the Whole Foods with the chip in her arm and she paid for it with the chip?
Yeah, in her hand.
With a what?
Yeah. She had a microchip in her hand.
Oh, yeah, I did see that. Yeah. Yeah, that's the future that they're pushing us to. And the more people who were like, oh, you know what's so cool? I went to the Barbie movie today and I paid with my wristband. Or not even my wristband, with my microchip inside of my wrist. It's like,
yeah.
Cool, Barbie. Thanks for fucking selling us down the river, you fucking cunt.
Well, it's like I saw a video the other day where this older gentleman went to the pharmacy at Walmart and was trying to get his prescription.
Yep.
And was trying to pay in change. And they wouldn't take it because they didn't recognize it as legal currency.
Yeah, it's bullshit.
Even though, they give change back at the stores and stuff, but the pharmacy wouldn't take change because they said it wasn't currency.
Just when you're at the store and you're shopping for things and you see something that says like sustainably produced, right? That means it's got crickets in it. Just so you know. Not necessarily crickets, but whenever it's like sustainably produced, that's how they're labeling these bug infused products, because it's sustainable for them to add protein powder from crickets rather than I don't know, whatever else they might produce it from.
What I've noticed recently a lot was it said engineered biochemical. And it's on like chips and donuts and stuff like that on the backs of them.
Yeah, like if you look at some of the ingredients on like the great value products you get from like Walmart, like if you look at your waffle syrup, your pancake syrup, you know, it could say on the back of it, you know, contains trace amounts of tilapia or this or that.
Peanuts or
You ought to
something,
look
yeah.
at you ought to look at the ingredients on a lot of your great value products because it contains shit that it shouldn't be in there.
Or if you buy like pre-made beef patties, it's like partly soy in it. It's not 100% beef.
Well, a lot of the real
Exactly.
problem is it's all coming from
And
the
water.
exact same conveyor belts, so it's just cross-contaminating like crazy too.
Yeah,
Here's a
that's why
perfect
they-
example right here. We have UK Doritos versus US Doritos. We have corn, vegetable oil, canola, sunflower, blah, blah, blah. Maltodextrin, salt, tomato powder, cornstarch, lactose, whey, skim milk, corn syrup, solids, onion powder, sugar, blah, 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 blah. All those things are natural. But that it's artificial color, red number 40, blue number 1, yellow number 5, sodium casconate, spice, citric acid, that all that stuff. Versus over here, they don't have any of that stuff in there. Like there's like several different ingredients missing from the Doritos in UK. And why is that? It's because there's several different ingredients in the Doritos that are illegal to put in food in the UK.
Yeah.
Because they've done studies on them and have found that various forms of this food or that food causes this kind of cancer or that kind of disability or neurological disease or whatever. And yet, if you're in America, they're just like, go ahead, mate, eat up. Doritos are delicious. You like Cadbury eggs? There you go. Again. Heinz tomato ketchup. Again.
So looking at it, I guess corn syrup is illegal in the UK or something.
It's illegal in a lot of places. Like in Mexico, I think that corn syrup, they don't put that in their soda waters. That's why the Mexican Cokes, they taste better. They use real cane sugar.
Yeah, there's like
Dude,
30
you
or
can't
40
buy
countries that
Skittles.
ban it.
You can't buy Skittles in like 300 countries because there's some chemical in them that gives you stomach cancer. You can't buy Mountain Dew in like half the world because there's a known chemical that they add for preservative that does cause stomach and intestinal cancer. And yet, if you live in America, they're like, well, I don't know. The company's paid us, so you can drink it. It's cool. It's American way,
Is
bro.
there also something in Mountain Dew that actually will cause you to be impotent?
I don't know. How do you know that one, Corey?
I don't drink Mountain Dew, but I've heard that before.
I heard that was Red Bull. I heard that Red Bull actually lowers your testosterone count or something like that.
I mean, it just, they're constantly poisoning us with our food, and it's like no one really gives a shit. And the ones that do, it's such a minority, and we don't have a big enough voice to make a difference.
Well, the real problem is that we ever let these corporations become mega corporations to begin with, because they should all be trust busted down to almost nothingness at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, BlackRock's the big one that needs to be trust busted because while they don't have a monopoly, they own a controlling share in so many different companies that they're basically a monopoly of all things. It's weird. It's hard to explain.
Yeah, it's what, like 80-85% of every single company has BlackRock tied to them, or one of the other ones.
Yeah, it's like a significant, like of Fortune 500 companies, I think it's 100% of them are owned at least 10% by BlackRock.
They're literally like Cthulhu with the tentacles and shit everywhere.
And I mean, people wonder why, for the first time in American history, the life expectancy's gone down in the United States. People are dying younger. People are fatter. We have an obesity problem like you've never fucking seen before in this country. You look at like pictures or videos from like the 1960s of people at the beach, and it's like everybody's skinny and like normal looking and stuff. And you look at it now, and it's like there's a couple normal people, and then everybody else is like, Jabba no bada. Oh, bring more ice cream. Oh. You know what I mean? Like, it's fucking bad, bro. And I'm not trying to single anybody out, because I'm saying it's not your fucking fault. I'm saying you've been poisoned. I'm saying the government and these pharmaceutical companies and these large corporations have colluded together to make a little bit more money off of making your ass fatter on purpose, on making your life harder on purpose, on making your metabolism shit on purpose, because they benefit in multiple ways by you needing more government. Now you can't take care of this for yourself or that for yourself, so you need more government to take care of everything. It's like a fire, right? Like when the fires happen in Maui, like, great, the government gets more power, they get more land, they get more everything. They're totally incentivized to have fires happen. They're totally incentivized to have people sick, because it gives them a level of power that they wouldn't have otherwise.
Guy that comments brings up a good point there about the cancer and food and saving money. And it's interesting because when you look at the EBT/food stamp system, I think it's like 35 to 50 cents of every dollar goes to junk food corporations.
Daniel
Yeah,
says
they
it's
allow
weird.
you to buy.
Good. No, you go ahead.
I was gonna say they allow you to buy like junk food and sodas. It's like the worst dollar store sugary stuff that you can buy with EBT cards and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It should cover like staples like bread and eggs and milk, but it doesn't. It covers junk food, Doritos. I think I don't know about in Texas, but I think in some states you can buy beer with it.
The only things you can't buy with it, as far as I'm aware, are alcohol. And then I know at one point it was hot prepared foods at places like Walmart, like their deli counter and stuff like that. But you can buy everything else.
Right. Fantastic. You can even get like Red Bull and fucking candy and shit. So, yeah. Which is fucked up. Like, you should be able to buy a goddamn roast chicken, I think, with an EBT card, right? But you can't.
Yeah.
But you can buy a frozen chicken. That's fine. But you can buy all the Red Bull you fucking want. So, like, I mean, what people do is they get their EBT card, they get their food stamps or whatever. And it's like, okay, let me buy all the shit food, all the stuff that I wouldn't buy if I had money, if it was my money that I was spending on it. I'll buy that stuff. And then I'll buy like alcohol and this and that and pay the bills with the money that I make.
If you ever go to a Walmart on the 1st or 15th of the month, that's when you know people are going in there with EBT, because they'll have cartloads of shit and it's all garbage.
Yeah.
At my job, you could always tell when the 1st of the month is. Because it's weirdly busy on the 1st of the month with a certain demographic of people.
Mongolians?
Daniel says it's weird how the 60 million buffalo that roamed the U.S. didn't cause climate change, but the 28 million cows we like to eat do.
Yep. That's all bullshit. That's all, that whole climate change thing. Don't get me wrong. I think that there might be a slight warming, but it's caused by solar activity. I think our effect on it is minimal.
As carbon dioxide increases in the environment, plants are able to grow and thrive in areas that because one thing that happens with carbon dioxide in plants is if they are growing in an area that doesn't have enough nutrients in the soil, but it does have a higher carbon dioxide level, the plant can actually turn the carbon dioxide into its own fertilizer.
The nutrients, yeah.
So if there's a high enough carbon dioxide level in the atmosphere, you get an explosive growth of fauna and flora. Well, flora, not fauna. Well, I guess fauna too would be a secondary explosion. But
yeah, because they're feeding on all the fresh plants popping up.
Correct. Yes, and then as things warm up, yes, you get like more violent storms, let's say, potentially, but you also get more rainfall in general, and you get areas that were previously arid getting to be less arid. And as ice melts, yes, the sea levels may eventually rise a little bit, but you also uncover like hundreds of square miles of land that was previously covered by ice. So, like, you can look at all the negatives of climate change, or you can look at some of the
Yep.
positives too. Like, it's not just negative shit.
And as it happens, I mean, say for instance, if it happens over a period of 100 years, that's plenty of time for us to compensate for it. Like for instance, if things start getting warmer, then people just going to start kind of moving north, where they can plant crops and stuff like that. It is what it is. Human beings we've been through ice ages and we've been through all kinds of shit before. This is nothing new.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's something that, like, and I don't know, because I wasn't alive and neither was anyone else here, but like 500 years ago, was cancer really a thing? I mean, I'm sure someone had cancer 500 years ago on occasion, but that's not what people died of. Like they died of fucking like dysentery and like all the things from Oregon Trail.
Pox and shit. Yeah.
They would go to take a shit and get bit by a rattlesnake on the ass.
Yeah. What a terrible way to go. Seriously.
Better the ass than the ball sack, right, Duke? Oh, Duke's not here.
It's
Daniel
too bad.
says,
Duke. Go ahead.
Daniel says, do another drive-through prank chat. I'll buy the food. It's too late right now, and I got kids at school in the morning. What time is it? Oh, it's 9:30. Yeah, probably another 30 minutes, and I got to end the chat here.
Yeah. Has anybody else been enjoying Duke's content as much as I have? I think he's knocking it out of the park.
I only seen one of his live streams. I didn't get a chance to see anything else yet.
Oh yeah, I think Duke's he's been killing. He's been pumping out content left and right.
Yep. It's actually kind of emboldened me. I'm thinking about setting up shop again and maybe doing some stuff.
I did a response video to his one where he was talking about the different guns the other day.
Yeah.
Dude, that's one thing that YouTube should bring back. The response video. Is like, it used to be like if someone made a video, then you could make a response video to it, post it in a way that it was tagged to that video. So when people watched that video, they wouldn't necessarily watch yours next, but they would see it somehow and they would have the option to watch your video. So it would drive a lot of traffic to your shit, especially if you had like good critiques or whatever, if you had like insightful stuff that you could talk about from someone else's channel or from someone else's content or whatever. Like that was a great way to get people to notice you and stuff. And they don't do anything like that anymore.
Yeah, the last time I saw that was circa 2010, something like that.
Yeah, I thought that was great. But I mean, and I'm sure it caused a fair amount of controversy, to be honest.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
a fair amount of people who got, misunderstood and taken out of context, and then someone bigger than them made the response video, and more people saw the response video than the video, and everyone believed, you know what I mean? Like that shit happens. But that's the internet, bro. You deal with that shit on the internet. If you're gonna internet, and you can't complain about internet.
That was
It's like
back when things were like, oh,
have you ever heard of rules of the internet?
No.
No.
All right. Rule number 0, don't fuck with cats. Rule number 1, you don't talk about what? There are some places that you have to be part of and really I don't know what that is. Rule number 3, we are anonymous. Rule number 4, we are legion. Rule number 5, we do not forgive, we do not forget. Rule number 6, anonymous can be a horrible, senseless, uncaring monster. Rule number 7, anonymous is still able to deliver. Number 8, there are no rules about posting. Number 9, there are no rules about moderation either. I mean, this is the old school internet fucking shit, dude. Like, this isn't the one I was thinking of, though. This is a loose collection.
sounds like a pro anonymous thing.
Yeah,
Well,
whatever.
Honda broke that first rule.
Don't talk about rules 2 through 33. Whoopsie daisies. Seats taken.
Well, technically, you didn't talk about it, but you showed it on the screen.
Yeah, man. Like I was at the store the other day, and I was trying to pick up some healthy options, knowing what I know about food and stuff, and like what can you buy these days? What can you buy? Can you buy bread? No, you can't buy bread because it's got fucking Roundup, whatever that fucking chemical's called in it. You can't buy corn. Why? Because it's fucking GMO corn. You can't buy fucking like basically like what can you eat? It's meat. You can eat cow because cow is basically the way that they grow cow. By the time that they send it off to slaughter, it doesn't have a bunch of chemicals in it. It doesn't have a bunch of hormones in it. It doesn't have a bunch of antibiotics in it. Chicken does, right? Because chickens, the way they grow chickens, they're like growing on top of each other. And if they don't constantly pump them full of antibiotics, the chickens die. And so they have like all these chemicals and shit in the meat. When you fucking eat chicken meat, sometimes you feel sick afterwards. At least I do. And I think that's why.
Yes, I do. Especially when it's deep fried too.
Oh yeah, and like that's another one. Anything deep fried, any of that vegetable oil or corn oil or canola oil or any of those fucking seed oils, they're finding out that shit causes cancer. You can't drink Diet Cokes. You can't drink anything with atrazine or
aspartame.
Aspartame,
thank
you. Because the aspartame gives you fucking cancer. You can't have too much sugar because that gives you diabetes, and they put sugar in fucking everything, and corn syrups and fucking everything.
Yeah,
it's like what can you have anymore? You buy steaks, and I guess potatoes are okay. I think.
Very starchy for you.
Yeah, but I mean, as far as like the GMO and chemicals and stuff.
And most honey is not real honey.
Oh yeah, they just feed fucking bees sugar, and then collect their sugar poop.
If you want real honey, you got to go to a beekeeper at this point. And you should keep some local honey on tap too, for that matter, because if you actually take some of that when you're sick, it'll actually clear up a lot of your stuff. As long as it's local.
Did you see that video of the dude trying to feed a fucking bear a Big Mac, and the bear wouldn't eat it?
No.
Really?
Yeah, he was like giving him food, and he was like eating this and that, and then he pulled out the fucking like fresh out of the box. I think it was a double quarter pounder is what it was. And like tries to give it to the bear, and he pushes it away, and he opens it up and shows him the meat inside. Like here, there's meat in it. He smells it, he sniffs it, he smells it, he pushes it away. The bear doesn't recognize McDonald's as food, and neither do bugs. You've seen like the pictures of like, here's a McDonald's cheeseburger after 6 months, and it looks almost exactly the same.
Yep.
Because nothing ate it. No bacteria came in there and was like, Like if you left a fucking normal cheeseburger on the fucking counter, it would turn into a pile of mold in 6 months, right? It would be unrecognizable. But if it's a McDonald's cheeseburger, there's so much plastic and bullshit in there that 6 months later, you almost could just fucking rehydrate it or something and eat the motherfucker.
Well, it's the same thing with McDonald's fries. There's a museum someplace that actually has one from like 30 years ago, and it still has not been degrading at all.
That just shows you the quality of their food. How good it is.
Damn, those fries are so good, though.
Yeah.
Well, it shows you what's legal to be qualified as food in this country. And they've lobbied and done whatever to make it so that they can sell that shit and make more. I don't know, man. Is it to make more money? Is that what it is? Is it all about greed, or is there some nefarious secondary ulterior motive that's underlying and based in everything, all of these decisions that they're making, from the fucking like forever chemicals that you drink in the water, from the stuff, the aerosol fucking aluminum in the air, to the GMO foods that are poisoning us, and all the fucking chemicals that go into the GMO foods to keep them fucking like producing high and stuff, and all the sugars that they're pumping into us. Like all of it's adding up to like death. But is it all for profit, or is there a secondary motive?
It's both things.
Both,
The secondary
yeah.
thing, the secondary part is because of big hospitals, big pharma, et cetera, to put you into a medical state where you have to be constantly on something.
Yep. And isn't margarine actually like one ingredient away from being plastic or something
Yeah,
like that?
Something like
That's
that.
another
You
one.
frozen
Okay,
natural
so if
butter.
you take a stick of butter and you put it on an anthill, right? The ants will come out of the ground and fucking scoop that butter up and take it down into their hole, and they will love it. And they will eat that butter, and they love that shit. You take a stick of margarine and put it on an anthill, it will be there a month later. Probably with a bunch of dead ants in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember we also talked about how I think it was France banned a lot of the Subway bread because they consider it mostly a pastry. Was it pastry? Can't say
Pastry.
the word. Yeah, pastry. Yeah, pastry because of the sugar content in it. It's not real bread.
I thought it
Well,
had plastic in it too.
It
Hold on,
was
let me look that
made
up.
with the same kind of ingredients that are made with yoga mats.
Oh wow.
Yeah, but
Asperger's for the win. Subway was the only chain to use the yoga mat chemical in its bread. 2014, blah, blah, blah. The FDA, according to the FDA, the chemical is most commonly used as whitening agent in cereal flour as a dough conditioner and bread making. So any mass-produced bread, any sandwich bread, all the tortillas you eat, all the cereal, the breakfast cereal that you eat, has this chemical in it that apparently they can make floor mats out of also.
Nice.
Can you eat the floor mats though?
My
Probably
guess
could.
is no.
no, but a lot of times, with those ingredients, also the ingredients is water, and you can, drink that. Just because it's a chemical that made for floor mats doesn't necessarily means, it's harmful to you.
Well, I think they stopped using it because here's an article from Bloomberg. The yoga mat chemical quiet fast food exit. Meaning they were found out and they're quietly being like, okay, let's stop using this shit. Like, take it out of let's pretend we never used it kind of thing.
Right.
And don't drink the tap water either. I agree with Damien Christ out there. Daniel dropped in too and says, it's bad when the water is tainted with gay.
Or is it good?
Well, that's another one. Okay, so you just reminded me of another one. Plastic leaching. What is it? The
BPA?
Yeah, that's it. I don't know what that stands for. It's some really long chemical word, but it's basically a chemical that is leached into the water from plastic. And there's plastic in all the fucking water. There's microplastic in all the fucking water. You can't get away from it. You get water out of the ground at a spring and it's got plastic in it now. They can't get away from it. So all water has this shit in it. And it just happens to turn out that these chemicals that are leached into the water from the plastic happen to fit the same receptor in your body as estrogen. So your body treats it like estrogen. And then girls go through puberty early and boys aren't as violent and like fucking get confused about things. And like a whole bunch of stuff happens because there's estrogen mimickers in the water that are released through chemical processes from plastic breaking down, basically. Again, is this an accident? Is this just like, oh, we didn't know that plastic did that? Or did they like specifically formulate plastic to leach out this stuff? I don't know. I think that it's probably the first one, but would I be surprised if it was the latter? No.
It may have started out as just being cheap, but they've known for enough time now to where they should have fucking fixed it.
You read my mind. Yeah, it started out. A lot of it started out as just cost-cutting measures. It's exactly what you said. You literally read my mind right as I was thinking.
It's a huge reason why colon cancer percentages have skyrocketed. I believe it, dude. That and the fucking seed oils, dude. What's up?
That's not the only reason. As a colon cancer survivor, I've been told by many doctors it was actually the meds that I was on that caused the shit.
It used to be rare to know someone with cancer. Now it's weird to know someone with not to know someone or multiple people with cancer.
Yeah.
Another one, if you know girls that'll take their cell phones and put them on their tit, that's causing a lot of breast cancer these days too.
Oh yeah.
Or the fucking baby powder that everyone used for years that had fucking asbestos in it.
Yeah.
It's like,
here's Johnson.
Asbestos is bad. We're not going to put it in the buildings anymore. We're going to save people from getting mesothelioma. But here's some baby powder. Don't worry about it. I'm like, yeah, they're trying to kill us, dude.
Yep.
And certainly we're going into a period of time in American history and in human history, not just American history, where the human being is no longer a resource. We are now a liability. And that changes the whole formula, right? Like, if something's a true resource, you want to protect it, you want to preserve it, you want to prolong it, you want to enhance it, you want to make it as good as possible, right? But if something's a liability, you want to diminish it, you want to minimize it, you want to shorten its length, you want to do anything that you can to make it cost less. And when a human being is a liability, the way that you make us cost less is by what? Killing us, getting rid of us, making our lives shorter, making us stupider, making us more able to be manipulated, making us, you know what I mean? Like all of the things that all of these foods and all of these chemicals and all the water and stuff that we've been talking about for the past 45 fucking minutes now has been doing. That's what they want. That's what they're getting. They're getting what they paid for. They designed this shit from the ground up, and they're selling us our own fucking death.
That coupled with the social messages making the birth rates in a lot of first world nations collapse. Not just in Europe either. It's happening in Asia too.
Well, if this is, I'm not saying it's not, but if it's true, with, all the plastic in the water and all this and stuff, how are they keeping themselves healthy and away from this if it's in everything?
Well, I
Well,
mean,
I'm pretty sure
there's certain foods that I think that they know. I think that they've got their own sources, right? I think they've got their
Right.
clean farms. I think they've got their clean water supplies. I think they've got their own way of doing things. Like there's ways to clean the water. There's ways to get these chemicals out of the water. There's ways to grow food that doesn't have these GMO stuff and chemicals and stuff inside of it, right? But it's not as cheap, especially when like the mass production is going to the cheap shit that everyone eats, and a very small percentage of it's this stuff. Like that makes it really not cheap, so no one can afford it. Like, I guess if you can afford to eat like nothing but organic and grass-fed beef and milk that isn't pasteurized and all those things, like the stuff that you should be eating, it's not easy to do for the average person.
Right. Yep, money talks and bullshit walks.
Java says, I think that's a bit of a stretch, son. I'm probably older than you, Java. I'm not going to say that I am, but probably. But what is a stretch that like all of these things that these different corporations are doing and government organizations are doing when they're looking the other way, when they're paying off the scientists, like are they all involved from top to bottom? Is the guy who's working at the Kellogg's factory, like does he know about the shit that he's doing, that he's involved with? Probably not. Does someone at Kellogg's know exactly how that shit went down and the history of it and where it's at and where they're going? Probably. There's no questions, all by design at this point. And I think maybe there's some parts that were by design and there were some parts that were by accident that just fit into the idea of what they were trying to do. So they just pushed it forward and promoted that too. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's a combination, but yeah. But even in that case, like that's by design because you're like, oh yeah, this thing fucking works for soft killing people like crazy. Let's push that forward.
And if that doesn't work, go for gun control.
Yeah, that's why you can't trust the government.
Well, and there is a certain level of, I don't know what you'd call it, moral cowardice, I guess, for people to look at these problems, begin to realize the implications and the magnitude and the scale of these problems that are facing us, right? And then they get scared and they run away. And they put their head in the sand and they put their fingers in their ears and go la 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 and fucking run away. And that's what it is. It's you're afraid. It's like the problem's too big to deal with. It's too big to comprehend even. It's like the Great Flood, dude. Like hard to comprehend that much water flowing over the land, but it happened.
Yep.
Yeah, I've known people who didn't want to, who just swallowed the blue pill and just carried on. And it's only when things get really bad are they going to start to wake up. You know what I mean? I mean, who hasn't had somebody walk
how
up
much
to them?
worse can things get? I mean, if things are fucking bad now.
Oh, you'd be surprised how much worse things can get before they get better.
Things can
That's a
can go
question.
straight Venezuela.
That's a question that has a very dark answer, Corey. Because no matter how bad things are, no, like think of like the worst situation that you can think of, and I guarantee you, no matter what it is, I can think of something to make it worse.
No, true.
And
but,
that's the way that reality. Like no matter how bad things get, they can always get worse.
I know. I'm just saying. I mean,
Things can go Venezuela. They can go Great Depression. They can go all kind of ways before people really start to wake up.
I mean, they could go full on Soviet Russia, starving to death in fucking Siberia,
or another Nazi Germany or anything.
Yeah.
I mean, these are all bad options. And it seems like that's the direction we're sailing as a ship.
Speaking of Nazi Germany, I actually found a new series the other day called World on Fire. That's about like the invasion of Poland and stuff like that by Hitler's regime. It's pretty good, actually.
Yeah.
If they split up the Earth, like the entire planet, by populate, like everyone gets an equal amount of land, you know? And it's all like this percentage of it's desert because there's like desert in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And this percentage of it's like farmland because there's farmland in the world. And this percentage of it's mountains because there's mountains. And so between all the different like arid and like arable and you know, mountainous and desert land or whatever, everybody gets an equal portion of each type of land. But overall, how much land would there be per person? Like how many acres would you get? I wonder. I don't know. Would it be like 10 acres, do you think?
That'd be hard to say because we're what, like 7 going on 8 billion people right now?
How many acres of land Okay, so there's 126 billion acres of land.
Divided by 8.
36.8 billion acres of inhabitable land. Okay, so that helps. Let's do calculator again. Calculator. 36.8 billion. That's million.
It's like 5 and some change.
Divided by how many billion people are we at now? 7?
At least 7 billion. I think it's closer to 8 at this point.
36.8 billion. I need another 0. Dang it. $36.8 billion divided by 7 billion people. So we'd each get 1.42 acres of usable land. Do you think you could make it happen with 1.42 acres of land that you could grow crops on?
That doesn't sound right.
Yeah, you
36
did that
divided by-
backwards.
Well, that's
four.
inhabitable land. Right? That's not just that discludes all mountains and fucking stupid beaches and like fucking deserts and bullshit land that's rocks and I forget what they call it. Wasteland. That takes away all the wasteland.
Well,
So
it was like 100 billion, and then it was 30 billion of habitable land. And that's what you were working with. 30 billion divided by 8, 36 billion is like 4.2 or something.
36.8. Oh, maybe I did do it wrong. Hold on.
Yeah. If it was 7 billion, it'd be 5 something. If it's 8, it would
Yeah,
be like
okay.
4 something.
We're
Right.
crunching some numbers.
On 4 acres of land, yeah, that's enough. And that's per person. That's not counting multiple people gathering together and sharing
I
their
think a
land.
little more than 4 acres.
Well, I mean, like if you got married, that's per kid too. So, like if you got 4 kids, they all have the same amount. So you add it all together, you got like 60.
That's true. So if you have like a family of 4, technically you should have like 20 acres.
Yeah,
Yeah.
something like that.
And you could definitely make a good run at
Homestead.
it. Yeah, thank you.
The vape says, I want my 1.42 acres of land. Dude, I'd take 1.42. I would.
I don't know. I think more than that. And the funny thing is, I've seen a lot of, like, when I was looking for, like, land to buy, I keep seeing a lot of that, like 1.42, 2 point something, or 3, or like no more than 5. And
Dude, if
when
it
you
was
look
like
at how
really
many-
good land that had like dark soil and like good rain and good weather that you could grow stuff and all that, like a 1.42 acre garden, that's a lot of fucking food, man.
Oh yeah, and you wouldn't even have to need that much land for just the garden. You can use half of that for the garden and the other half for raising livestock. Have like a couple cows or some chickens and goats and raise it all yourself. So you know where your meat's coming from, and you don't have to put all the hormones and chemicals and shit in them and antibiotics and shit like that.
I mean, me personally, I want a pond so I can fish in there, but I do want to, if they allow me to shoot in my own land, because I know you got some interesting laws even in Texas that have to be like a big amount, or go hunting somewhere.
What did the slaves get after it was like 5 acres and a donkey or something like that?
It was
I
40
forget what it
acres
was.
and a mule.
40 acres and a mule?
40 acres.
Yeah.
Yep.
They never got it.
There you go. I'd take that shit.
I know in Texas, I think in order to shoot on your property, you can't have any residents in within a mile of any direction that you're shooting.
Are you sure it's a mile? Because I heard you still need like what? Was it more than like 50 acres? I think.
No,
Well, it's
no,
actually
it's like a mile. I think you can't shoot. I mean, obviously, stray bullets and everything, they worry about it, but I think it has to be more than a mile in any direction.
You know what that sounds like, Corey?
Wow, it's pretty big.
Tyranny.
I did. Because I heard a guy got like, I forgot with some famous YouTuber arguing with his neighbor, and his land ain't even that fucking big, and he could shoot in the backyard if he wants to.
I think the rule in Colorado is if it's private land, that you have to have at least 20 acres.
So I just looked up Texas. It says you have to have at least a 10-acre tract of land and are more than 150 feet from any residence or occupied building of a neighboring property.
Yeah, I tried saying that because my dad lives out kind of in the country, and he has 5 acres. And we would shoot out there. It wasn't until some of those stupid city folks started moving out there that they started complaining to the sheriff. The sheriff came and knocked on his door and said, "Hey, calm it down. You know, it's not a big deal to us, but they ruined it for everybody. People we used to shoot out there all the time. You know, just shoot at cans, shoot at whatever. You know, people would barbecue and target practice. You know, we had mounds of sand that we would shoot into to kind of use as a backstop.
Yeah.
It's 10 acres.
I guess depends on where you are too, because like maybe a half a mile down the road is a Fort Worth police officer that lives down there way, and there's always fucking people shooting around our area. And where I'm at, I mean, there's people houses close enough to where technically you shouldn't be able to, and fuck, I even hear that motherfucker over there shooting him damn self. So I guess it just depends on where you are and whether they're going to enforce that or not.
I mean,
Yeah,
one of the areas I'll say one of the areas I go shooting at, it's almost like in the countryside kind of, but they have those berms, right? But if you shoot over the berm, technically those bullets can land near a highway somewhere. That's what they told us. Yeah.
I like this. Armed citizen defensive gun use while holding beer.
Yeah. That's what I said, the term of hold my beer.
yeah, right. Hold my beer, watch this.
You know what's really stupid though is that depending on what state you live in, like it's a little bit harder in Texas, but like in some states, you could be literally defending yourself, and the person that you're defending yourself in is actively attacking you or otherwise engaged in some sort of violent felony, and you pull a weapon out and defend yourself, they can still sue you.
Mm-hmm.
That is the load of horseshit. Yeah, I mean, like, do you not see this guy was literally charging at? Well, you didn't have to shoot him. Yeah, I kind of did. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so he can sue you if you don't kill him. So if you shoot him and he doesn't die, he can sue you. If he does die, then his family can sue you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's retarded. It's so fucking skewed the wrong way. It's not even funny.
And that's exactly what we saw with Kyle Rittenhouse's case too, because it was
Anthony Huber's dad suing him,
and it's Gage that's also suing him at this point.
You should sue. You should be able to sue them for raising a piece of shit kid. Like your kid tried to kill me, and I had to kill him, and I'm traumatized because I had to murder. I had to kill your son, not murder.
I mean, the whole fucking nation saw Gage point a fucking gun at Kyle's head, and the motherfucker
he even admitted it after the fact too. That he was
he admitted it on the stand.
No,
I was gonna say,
how many people have seen that video?
He under oath said, yeah, he didn't shoot at me until I leveled the gun at his head. So they're going to be able to take transcripts from that court hearing and display them in the civil suit and be like, so you pointed a gun at him and then he shot you. Why are you suing him? He may, depending on what judge he lands or what jury he lands or whatever.
Well, the point is he's still got to pay for, even if he wins, right? Best case scenario, even if he wins, he's still got to spend years in court. He's got to spend tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars on lawyers. He's got to spend his life this is his life now. This is his life now for probably till he's 30 years old. He's going to be dealing with this shit.
In the last month, Kyle actually filed a thing with the state of Texas to make his own to a rights organization that would help defend people like himself from
I saw that,
cases.
Has anybody else been seeing lots of commercials for like USCCA and US Law Shield and stuff?
It's pissing me off because it's like every fucking commercial that comes up is about USCCA and this. They say you must have the fucking insurance. It's like, shut the fuck up, you douchebag.
Well, here's the thing. I took the LTC course this last Sunday, right? I mean, it's going to take me a couple of weekends to get it. And while they were grading our tests and looking at our targets and stuff, they had a guy from US Law Shield come in and talk to us. and talk about, all, exactly what the process is. He's like, look, you're going to get taken into custody. He's like, as soon as you can, give us a call. We will send a lawyer to you. And he went through the sales pitch and the whole bit. You know what I mean? And he's saying, like, the quickest I've seen somebody apply for coverage and get it, like pay for coverage, and then later have to use it, was literally later on that same day, like 6 hours later. Like somebody literally walked out of the field carry course, got the thing, and then got U.S. Law Shield, and then 6 hours later had to defend themselves. You know what I mean? And so it's, and I'm seeing, I know. And there's an old saying: you may beat the rap. In other words, you're not going to be found guilty, but you won't beat the ride. In other words, they're going to run you through the ringer in the meantime.
Yeah.
And so, good.
I've also heard that USCCA actually, basically they'll pick and choose which case they'll take on. Like they don't take them all on. It has to meet a certain criteria.
100%. They will absolutely deny you based upon the circumstances of what's going on. Yes.
Right. But
in fact, so, most people, even if you do have a legitimate self-defense claim, if it's not a clear-cut case that they know they can win, they will try to deny you so they don't have to pay for it.
And that's bullshit. I've had USCCA for years.
Yeah, I still have USCCA.
Yeah, so do I.
Just have a dash cam in your car, man. Like, carry a camera. Anyway, on that note, guys, we've been going over 2 hours. I got shit to do. I have to end it here. I'm sorry. I know we're having a great conversation, but it is time, guys. It is time. But I do appreciate everyone being here tonight. I do appreciate the super chats. I do appreciate the panel and everybody's input. We'll be back next week. Well, it'll be Sunday for me. Saturday, I guess, I'll be on Matt's Geek Chat if I'm doing nothing else. But I hope you guys have a good week, and I hope that everything continues to not end in World War III and disaster and the collapse of the dollar and the poisoning of our children and everything else that we talked about tonight. So, yeah.
I'll be doing my Thursday chat, too.
Right on, man. All right, guys. Cool. Well, look for that, and we will see you later.
Later, you think tickling bastards?
Pastry.